We're going to be reviewing Cantonese pan-fried pork chops on madewithloud.com. Now, this is a very popular YouTube channel, so if you want to learn more about Cantonese or Chinese cooking, I would definitely recommend this person. This recipe had all fives, no reviews that were lower than a five. Now, the main ingredients are 1 pound of pork chop, half a white onion, half a red onion, 0.5 ounce ginger, 3 cloves garlic, 3 tablespoons cornstarch. I think this is, for coating it before frying. Some cooking oil, garlic salt, Shaoxing wine. The marinade is 2 tablespoons oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon soy sauce, 1 tablespoon Shaoxing wine, 2 teaspoons sugar, 0.5 teaspoons black pepper, and 1 tablespoon cornstarch. So the steps are pretty simple. There's only 5 steps. The first step is to tenderize the pork by smashing it in a crosshatch pattern. The second step is to marinate the pork with the marinated ingredients. Step 3 is to cut up those ginger, garlic, and onions as aromatics. Step 4, coat the pork in cornstarch. And step 5 is to pan fry the pork chops and then pan fry the aromatics with the pork chops and finally add in some Shaoxing wine. At the very end, you will then cover the pan and let the Shaoxing wine steam the pork chops to finish it off. So those are 6 steps. Let's get into the cooking video and the review afterward. So the first and second step of this recipe is to tenderize the pork and then marinate it. We're going to start off with making the marinade. It's going to be 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of oyster sauce, 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce, and also 2 teaspoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of Shaoxing wine, and half a teaspoon of black pepper. So just go ahead and mix all those ingredients together, and you should be able to have a very nice coating that can go on top of the pork. I bought wider pork chops, and these aren't exactly the ideal pork chops for this recipe, but what I have to do is pat the pork chops dry. This makes it so it's ready to absorb the marinade. If it's wet, there's a chance that, not all the marinade would stick on the pork chop. So my pork chop also had bone in. This recipe does not include bone in on the pork chop, so I'm going ahead to debone the pork chops really quick. Now we want to tenderize the pork chop by smashing the back of the pork chop with a knife in a crisscross pattern. So go ahead and smash it in one angled direction with your knife and then do the same in the opposite direction. Finally, once the pork chops are tenderized, go ahead and dump all the pork chops in the marinade and mix up really good until the entire surface is coated. When the pork chops is marinating for the next 20 minutes, we're going to go ahead and prepare aromatics. The first aromatic we're going to cut up is minced garlic. We're only going to be using 3 cloves of garlic, so go ahead and flatten it out and then chop it up into small little pieces. The next aromatic we're going to be using is ginger. So I'm going to cut a chunk of ginger and slice it into thin slices, like so. Alright, so the last part we're going to be using half an onion. Now I ended up using 3/4 of an onion. This was a mistake on my part. For some reason when I was reading the recipe, I thought it said 5 ounces, and I searched that up online and that was about 3/4 of an onion because a medium-sized onion is 8 ounces. So it was actually just half of a white onion, half of a red onion, and I used a little bit too much of both. I also felt like I needed a larger pan, which you'll see later on. After you're done cutting your aromatics and the pork has been marinating for 20 minutes, go ahead and pour cornstarch onto a flat surface or container and dump your pork into the cornstarch. Make sure you get both sides coated properly. Any excess cornstarch you should dust off so that it doesn't clump up when you're frying it. And now the pork chops are ready to be fried.
I'm gonna go ahead and start frying, and hopefully I don't get splashed on. The recipe said to go and lower it to medium. We're going to be cooking for 4 minutes for the recipe's instructions. I think medium heat makes it so that we can do that. So we'll do 4 minutes and then we'll flip on the side.
Alright, so after 4 minutes, we're going to flip the pork chops on the other side and cook for an additional 2 to 3 minutes before dumping in the aromatics. As you can see, my pork chops took the entire surface of the pan, so when I dumped in the aromatics just kind of laid on top of the pork chops. I wanted to fry the aromatics properly, so what I ended up doing was sliding the aromatics under my pork chop.
I don't have garlic salt, but I do have sea salt. I got garlic powder. Finish it off with Shaoxing cooking oil. And we're gonna chill the heat as soon as we put this on. So 1 tablespoon. Ready? And then after I kill the heat, steam it with the lid on.
Looks really good, and I'm going to eat about half of the dish before giving my review so I can give a proper review.
So I finished about half of it. It said you need to push the pork chops to the side, cook it on the side, and cook the aromatics in the middle. Problem was I had too much aromatics, so it ended up that the aromatics slid underneath the pork chops, and this made it so the bottom half of the pork chop was not as crispy because some of the onions started releasing water, and then that made the bottom side of the pork chop slightly soggy, right? So I didn't get like that full crispiness. It was kind of weird. It was like this half crispiness, but overall would not rate the cookability at a lower than 8 because there's only 5 steps and all the steps make logical sense. And they offered you some alternatives, like if you didn't want to use cooking wine, you can use water or something else, right? So I'm just gonna put the cookability at an 8. Now the taste for me is a 9. This might be my bias because I'm Cantonese, so I really like the flavors. The flavor profile reminded me of what I like to eat and what I ate a lot growing up, so that's why I'm rating it as a 9. There was like pockets of meat that was like super crispy and like pockets of fat that the aromatics didn't touch, and man, that cut was like a 10 out of 10. That section was amazing. What are the high notes, or I guess the good notes of this flavor? The flavoring is not like super intense, it's very subtle. Cantonese cooking isn't, for the most part, does not have super intense flavors, Instead of getting a lot of like good taste on the first bite, you'll get decent taste on the first bite, you'll get decent taste on the second bite, you'll get decent taste on the third bite. It is consistently good all the way until you finish the dish. And that's how I felt about this. I ate 2 pork chops. Every single bite was tasted amazing, tasted consistent. I think the aromatics really helped the pork a lot too. You can taste the infusion of the aromatics in the pork chops, which I was really surprised about. Now, maybe that's because the aromatics slid under my pork chops. They weren't just like some random fancy step that didn't do anything. You could definitely taste the ginger, the garlic, and the onions in the pork chop bite. Like those subtle flavors were noted. Yeah, let's say overall for me, I think it's going to be an 8.5. Pork chops were very juicy, very tender. It was not dry at all. Really great recipe. I think you should try it for sure. And I think all his other recipes from what I've seen on YouTube are all really good if you want to learn Chinese/Cantonese cooking. So go ahead and check him out on YouTube or check him out on his website. I think it's either Cooking with Lau or Made with Lau. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. You can also follow me at bbqwayu on Instagram. I post shorts of cooking videos that are my own freestyle. So what I like to do in those videos is I'll take a bunch of different recipes online, synthesize it together to be something crazy, give it a little spin, and make a reel that's really fun to watch, sync to like a hype song. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.